All right, back on the Young Turks. One last fun story about the debt ceiling because it involves the Tea Party's internal fight. So there are four guys who are voting with Boehner, and the Tea Party does not like them. James Lankford from Oklahoma, Alan West from Florida, Mike Kelly from Pennsylvania, and Bill Flores from Texas. And now the Tea Party leaders have started to call these guys the Tea Party Defectors. And, of course, they don't like that, and Alan West is mad. You don't poke Alan West in the chest.
He's Colonel West. I mean, did you notice he likes to be addressed? Isn't that the guy in the Wild Wild West, by the way? Wasn't he Colonel West, the guy who had, like, little guns in his boots and everything? Remember that show?
Oh, yeah.
So, anyway, so Colonel, don't mess with Colonel West.
He says, if the folks who 1 minute they're saying that I'm their Tea Party hero, and what, 3 or 4 days later I'm a Tea Party defector? That kind of schizophrenia, I'm not going to get involved in it. Well, yeah, that depends on your votes, doesn't it? 3 or 4 days later, you vote the other way. Now, I'm not, defending the guys who are calling Tea Party defectors, but it's not an irrational argument given how you're voting, right? I don't agree with them, but I get it, right?
They have a formal ceremony when they disbar you from the Tea Party. They take away your funny hat with the tea bags hanging out of it and strip the epaulets off your shirt. It's sad to see.
But Alan West says, bring it. If they want to bring forth a primary challenge, then so be it. Okay, and he's trying to be tough. But you know what? Now there's a new plan afoot that I am starting to read about, where some of the right-wingers in the House are considering removing Boehner from the speakership. That if he loses this vote, that they might try to do basically a palace coup. Now the problem is if they do that, they've got to have enough votes for the next Speaker of the House. If the Boehner allies don't go with them, then they're going to have to try to appeal to Democrats.
Well,
that might be a little tough.
Might be interesting to watch. I'd love to watch. I'll make the popcorn.
Right.
You bring the drinks. We'll watch and see how that plays out.
In one of those scenarios, Nancy Pelosi winds up being Speaker of the House again. Okay, well, believe me, that ain't gonna happen. All right, but don't poke Alan West in the chest. That's the lesson we've learned here. Okay, you remember this goofball when he did this, and then it turns out that having the flag underwater is desecrating the flag.
Oh, I didn't know that part. Yeah.
And then he's like, whoops. I love his eyes in that picture. Oh, I didn't know that. Really? Don't poke me in the chest. I'm underwater.
And he's going to challenge Alan West in the primary. That dude, the underwater guy. No, I don't know that. I'm just saying.
All right. JR, it's Alan West. Any comments? All right. Let's go on to the state of the economy, which is disastrous. So new numbers out. Last quarter, apparently, we grew at 1.3% rate. That is fairly disastrous. That is much, much lower than we need. We need 2.5% just to keep up with the new amount of people coming into the workforce and not have the unemployment situation get worse, right? So 1.3%, very, very bad. And the quarter before got moved down to 1.9%. It lost 0.4%. Apparently, they had miscalculated. And that happens regularly, by the way. They just adjust, right? And so now when you look at the new numbers, Richard, it's very bad news.
Oh, it's horrifying. And the thing that's astonishing about all of this is that these are like screaming alarms going off, and nobody's paying attention. We're doing everything, we meaning Washington, is having this debate about how we're going to make the problem worse. It's like the whole economy was in flames, and they're debating, let's throw gasoline on it, do we use regular or unleaded? That's the debate going on right now, that they're willing to shut down the government over. Nobody is saying, look, we not only do we have these devastating numbers from the United States, but we just this week got the numbers from Great Britain, which has completed its first year on this austerity kick. Way worse growth than they expected. Virtually nothing, less than 1% for the quarter. Why? Because, people keep saying, the apologists are saying, well, it was the wedding of the royals that, they have all these
nonsense.
They have these crazy, one-off explanations. But bottom line, government spending is down. Confidence is down. People aren't buying things. Same as here, and we're in worse shape. The statistics here, I won't even go through them, but 44 million people in poverty. $7.7 trillion in lost personal assets for the middle class in the United States. I mean, just staggering numbers. Unemployment, we all know 22% or underemployment rates in the real world, 24, 25 million people or underemployed. And all we can talk about, we know what to do. We've been through this over and over again. You put in money, you create jobs, you get the pump moving again. It's been done before, it can be done now. All we're getting instead is this insane austerity rhetoric that's been proven not to work. And if you look at the numbers here in this country, and I mean, the summary description, things suck. If you look at why they've gotten so worse and why they look so desperate, government Obama, for all our criticism of him, he said a very sensible thing. They said, unemployment's fallen, and he said, well, our stimulus money to the states ran out. That's a big reason.
Right.
50,000 jobs lost, 55,000 jobs lost just from that one month. But he doesn't stick with that. Nobody sticks with that. They mention it in passing, and then they go back to the destructive efforts. The stimulus money is running out. Our economy is tanking. We need more stimulus. Instead, we're talking about more cuts.
Well, Obama says the right things all the time. If Obama did what he said, God, he'd be a much better president. To give you a sense of how much this is hurting the economy, they expected the number from last quarter to be 1.8%, which is much higher than 1.3, obviously. Given the circumstances, that's a big difference. And part of the reason it wasn't was because we lost 500,000 jobs at the state level, right? So state workers, government workers, et cetera, have lost all of these jobs. And so they're like, oh, golly gee willikers, it turns out that hurts the economy. Of course that hurts the economy. Because it's not just that those guys don't have paychecks anymore. They can't spend money, and that money does not get circulated to the businesses, et cetera. To give you a sense of how dependent we are on consumer spending, 70% of our economy here in the United States is consumer spending. If you don't have a middle class and they cannot spend, well, then obviously that's going to hurt 70% of your economy and do tremendous damage. But instead of trying to help the middle class, what are we doing now? We're cutting spending on the middle class, and we're thinking of cutting their entitlements, which would be even more disastrous.
Disastrous.
And by the way, that they paid into their whole lives, and they deserve it because it's their money. And then third of all, in the grand bargain, what they would do is they would tax the middle class more by taking away some deductions like home mortgage deductions, charitable deductions, et cetera.
Health insurance.
And health insurance, which is huge for the middle class.
Yeah.
But don't worry, they would give another round of tax cuts for the top bracket and for corporations. I cannot imagine a worse economic plan if you actually wanted to grow the economy.
No, it's enormously destructive unless the long-term plan is to make us a truly third world country with radical upward distribution of wealth. I mean, people always say, well, don't talk too radically. These are the guys who are radical. This is a radical redistribution of wealth that's going on here. Another study, a poll recently said that I think it was 63% of Americans feel we're in a recession now, while people in New York and Washington are saying, thank God the recession's over. You know why they think they're in a recession? Because they are in a recession. We have this divided economy nobody's addressing, and nobody's trying to address.
Well, let me give you some numbers to back that up. During the actual so-called recession, which was end of 2008 through June 2009, right? We actually now new numbers, again, a new estimate. Turns out we lost 5%. Okay, they thought it was around 4.3. Turns out it's around 5.3% of the economy that we lost, which is a gigantic number, much larger than we expected, and by the way, much larger than any other recession in United States history. Okay, now even if you take 2007 to 2010, because we rebounded a little bit in 2010, and 2007 was a great year before the crash because the bubble was building. You take that 4-year stretch, we still lost 0.3%. Now, normally you gain every year, right? We didn't do any gains. We lost 0.3%. That's a huge stretch of time for you not to grow your economy, for it to go backwards. And now they're all surprised that the economy is not rebounding. Look, let me say one more thing about that that's really relevant to the solution, right? Because President Obama has made a terrible mistake in thinking that Tim Geithner was right, that if you just give the banks a lot of money, easy credit, et cetera, you just, you do more tax cuts. A third of the stimulus was tax cuts, by the way.
Right.
People don't talk about that, et cetera. You gave another round of Bush tax cuts for the rich in December. That it's okay, they'll spend the money and they'll revitalize the economy. They haven't. Well, what happened instead? Right now, the top corporations in the country are holding nearly $2 trillion in cash.
Absolutely.
That they are not spending. One of the reasons they're not spending it is because they're like, if we invest, there's no one to buy our products because you've leveled the middle class. There's no growth there whatsoever. And so we've gutted the actual economy. Meanwhile, when you turn to the Democrats and the Obama administration, they say, oh, no, the earthquake in Japan and the gasoline prices, and that's why this number was lower. You don't get it. Okay, the middle class is almost gone. You're never going to recover. And I'll tell you, look, these guys actually believe, Richard, that in the next 2 quarters, that the economy is going to get much better. Because they think, oh, once when we got past the earthquake and the gas prices, everything's going to be all right. They're in la-la land.
Well, I had 2 responses for you. Now I have 3. Let's see if I can remember them. One, the International Monetary Fund, this is fascinating to me, did a prediction on the Japanese economy. They do these forecasts. It actually improved after the earthquake, the long-term forecast. Why? Because Japan is going to need to invest to rebuild after that earthquake. The government investment is going to stimulate the economy. Even the IMF understands government investment stimulates the economy. That's what's really going to happen in Japan.
Let me jump in real quick.
And then I have two more for you.
Okay. Krugman makes this point all the time. Conservatives say, Roosevelt's programs didn't save the economy after the Great Depression. The World War II did. And Krugman says, what do you think World War II was? That was government spending on all those weapons, et cetera, that got the economy going.
And what happens to unemployment when you take every man between 17 and 30 and send them to war? So, yeah, absolutely. And by the way, Roosevelt, when they let him do what he wanted to do, the economy was going like this. Then Roosevelt made the mistake in his second term of listening to the conservatives, and the recovery fell off again.
He did an austerity program.
He did an austerity program. So, second point, $2 trillion in cash for corporations. Everybody says, the rhetoric, the propaganda is, well, it's because of regulation and uncertainty they won't spend that money. Bullshit. The reason, because any CEO who can make money by spending the cash on hand and doesn't, should and would be fired immediately. The reason they don't spend it, they don't have customers. The reason they don't have customers, there's unemployment, there's fear, there's a shrinking wage base for the people who do have jobs. So those are the things you fix to get the economy moving again. Third thing, slight disagreement with you. You said Obama made the mistake of listening to Geithner. I'm not sure, this gets back to what we were saying earlier, I'm not sure whether it's a mistake or a decision that was made along the way and not a mistake at all. But for whatever reason, he does listen to Geithner, a Republican, and that is a mistake for us, whether or not it's mistake or deliberate on his part.
Right. No, but the thing, first of all, you're totally right. And we go over this all the time. Look, he picked Geithner, he picked Rahm Emanuel, he picked Bill Daley, Larry Summers. He picked the most conservative guys because those are the guys he agrees with.
Right.
And he gave Krugman and Stiglitz and other award-winning progressive economists one dinner. And in that dinner, he told them, skip the details. And don't bother telling me what happened in the past. Just give me your proposals and then leave.
And they're not just award-winning, they were right. They were the guys who say, if you press that button, this thing is going to blow up. They press a button, it blow up. He said, thanks for your time. Don't bother me with the details. The guys who pressed the button, they all got the jobs.
Yeah. And look, if we're wrong, you'll see, right? And that's what I say all the time on the show, right? And I followed up by saying, I hope I am wrong. If it turns out the idea of giving more money to the bankers, giving more tax cuts to the rich, and doing more spending cuts was brilliant, well, we'll know by the election. Maybe unemployment will go below 8%, and Obama and Geithner, I think that would be a short-term fix anyway, and then it creates more long-term problems because the bankers keep taking risks. But hey, I'll give it to them, okay? I'll even be generous and say, wonderful short-term fix. My guess is that's not how it's going to go, and then getting into next year, starting at the end of this year, getting into next year, they are going to panic and go, oh my God, what happened? We didn't know we were going to be above 9% unemployment.
Right.
Well, what happened is you were wrong and you didn't listen. You see, those guys like Stiglitz, forget us. Who cares about us? Stiglitz has 2 Nobel Prizes, one individually, one with another group. You think it was an accident? You think they just give those away in the field of economics without putting a lot of thought into it? He got those because he's right, because he knows what the hell he's talking about. And so, okay, you ignored it at your peril. Let's see how it turns out for you, right?
Yeah, of
I'm
course.
looking forward to seeing Obama's genius. I'm looking forward to this economy rebounding.
Oh, but
I don't
if you listen,
see the fundamentals. I don't see how it's possible.
No. If you listen to well, I won't name any individuals, but I don't know, Lawrence O'Donnell. If you listen to some of these guys, you don't understand, Jack. You just don't understand. Obama is playing 11-dimensional chess. And by embracing and proposing and implementing the policies that are so disastrously wrong, he's faking the other guys out. And someday, by advocating for austerity, he's going to prove to the country that austerity is wrong. And you, of little faith, are not sticking with him.
Well, what we know today is that they told us, the Obama administration, that they were geniuses and this economy was going to start to rebound, well, 6 months ago, okay? And that we were going to be in really good shape at this point. Hell, they thought we were going to be under 8% unemployment last year, right? And now when they see this 1.3% number for the whole quarter, what happened?
A little quick story. I was invited to meet with some Treasury Department people who are nameless, but some of the publicity people beforehand for the Treasury Department were saying this was right after the New York Times had published an editorial by Geithner called "Welcome to Your Recovery," which outraged people because things were so terrible then. And they were saying, you know, we didn't pick that title. They picked that title to make us, you know, to poke fun at us. And we're really taking a lot of heat for it. And everybody was saying, oh, that's such a shame, because the other people in the room, the usual, like, reliable liberal voices for these policies. And I said, you know, have you guys ever stopped to think that, okay, they were making fun of you, but isn't it a bad sign when even the New York Times thinks your editorial deserves to be made fun of? Doesn't that tell you something about how these ideas are being received among even establishment sources? So yeah, this is just absurd and sad.
Well, they think they're geniuses. Let's find out if they are. Today's numbers do not indicate genius. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to Young Turks. Shake your Attica Kasparian here. And oh, what is this? It is, in fact, the 2011 People's Voice Award for News and Politics series. What I love about this is our Webby. It has our 5 words. The Young Turks, too strong.
Oh, that's awesome. That makes it even better.
Yeah, that's what makes it really cool. And it's the heaviest award in the history of mankind.
Oh my God, it really is.
You know why? Because it's too strong.
I can do like weightlifting during the show.
Hey, that's a Webby. Treat it with respect, okay?
Right.
The Oscars of the web, not a big deal. By the way, we won because of your votes. You're awesome. We've moved forward. All right. God bless, Webby. Okay.
All right, let's start with megachurch pastor Rick Warren. So he decided to tweet about the whole debt ceiling negotiation, right? And this is what his tweet said. Half of America pays no taxes, 0. So they're happy for tax rates to be raised on the other half of Americans that do pay taxes.
That's great, because if you are a good Christian pastor, you want to talk about Jesus' lessons about hating on the poor and saying that they should pay more and that the rich should pay less. Because you've read the Bible, right, Rick Warren? Have you read the Bible? Have you read the Bible? You call yourself a pastor, right? One of the most popular pastors in the country. Have you read the Bible?
So he's asking for people who make less than $9,000 a year to pay income tax.
Yeah, well, because they're getting too much.
Too much.
Jesus would agree. $9,000 is way too much when the rich need another tax cut. What was that, Ezekiel? Or was that in the New Testament about where the rich thou shalt get more tax cuts through my fraudulent pastors? Yes.
So several different websites picked this up, and then they started criticizing him in a very similar way that you're criticizing him right now. And he didn't like that, so he deleted his tweet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, come to find out that Jesus wasn't for rich, fat pastors. Huh. Weird. And it turns out that Jesus was against the money changers. Rick Pastor just found that out. My bad, my mistake. Let me take that tweet down.
Now, I want to give you guys an example of the huge benefit of being poor in this country. Okay, so if you are tax exempt, you're making so much money, and it's unfair. I'll give you an example. So if you're single and you're earning $8,950 a year, you're tax exempt. Okay, you don't have to worry about paying federal taxes.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so
Freeloaders.
shame on you.
Right.
How dare you make that much money and not pay taxes for it? If you're married and both spouses are making less than $17,900, that's combined income. Okay, you don't have to pay federal taxes.
Freeloaders, Jesus would despise you. Say, look at those guys making $17,900. They don't even pay any taxes to Rick Warren's fat ass.
By the way, maybe they don't pay federal taxes, but think about the fact that they pay sales tax, right? So a significant amount of their income goes towards sales tax. It's not like they're not paying any taxes at all.
In fact, a larger percentage of their income goes towards taxes than a lot of the hedge fund managers who are billionaires, because those sales tax, among other taxes that they pay for consumption, really, really takes a big chunk out of their income. Whereas for some of the hedge fund guys, you'd be lucky to get 15% out of them. They're like, well, what could I do, man? Of course, 15%. Am I not merciful? And I'm sure Rick Warren agrees.
And by the way, we're talking about the deficit that our country is in right now.
Right.
So is he suggesting that a solution to closing the gap and fixing the deficit our country is in is by taxing these individuals? Do you really think that taxing them is going to make a huge difference?
Yeah, and look, they do. What the Republican proposal is let's make the tax system flatter. In fact, one of the proposals that's probably going to get agreed upon with the Democrats is that we take away a lot of the exemptions that go to the middle class, like housing exemption, the charitable giving, etc. Your health care that you get from your employers, that gets taken away, the tax exemption for that. So that hurts all of you, right? But don't worry, in return, the rich get bigger tax cuts. They would bring down the top rate from 35% to 29%. Some proposals say that they would bring it down to 23%. Corporations down from 35% to 23%. So they not only do they do spending cuts on the middle class, they do tax increases on the middle class, and what do? They replace it with tax cuts for millionaires and billionaires. And then Rick Pastor says the poor aren't doing enough.
Unbelievable. You know, in regard to the debt ceiling negotiations, and Jesus is about to pull his hair out, but I had to mention this. JR was telling me some of the reasons why some of the Republicans are rejecting Boehner's proposal, right? And one of the reasons why is because they're not making enough cuts to higher education. Republicans want to get rid of the Pell Grant completely.
That's right.
Yeah, go fuck yourself.
Okay, all right. Keeping it real.
The Pell Grant. Oh my God, we're giving students $5,000 per year for education, for higher education. That's too much money, too much. In 10 years, how much money would they be saving, JR? It was something like, $8 billion over the next 10 years.
Each year, $8 billion per year. So then, like, you know, with all the billions that are going out in other ways, they're like, oh my God, we can't give up this.
The tax cuts for the rich that Obama just agreed to last December, $800 billion. Okay? That costs our economy $800 billion, our budget. Okay? But no, kids who've succeeded in school, to give them an opportunity to get a higher education so they can contribute to the economy and pay taxes, by the way. No, we can't do that, because that would level the playing field in terms of opportunity, and we can't have that. Only the rich people should have their kids go to college. We can't have these poor kids coming in through their accomplishments and getting Pell Grants. No. The tax cuts need to go to the rich so they can afford those private schools for their kids a little better, a little easier.
It's so discouraging. It's the more you hear about it, the more you learn about what they're willing to cut. It just and what Obama isn't willing to be strong on. You get discouraged. You feel helpless.
No. We're being too tough on Obama. No. He's. Why are we not accepting the change that he's? I reeled it in. Okay. I will say one last thing that I shouldn't say. One time, I've never told this story before, on MSNBC. The president spoke. After he spoke, I was live on the air as it was happening. It was breaking news. I said, now I'm going to keep it real, okay? And I said, the president, it was his speech on Egypt, and I said, look, he just said that he wants both sides. He said he supports the government of Hosni Mubarak and he supports the protesters. That's exactly what he said. It was early on in the process before he saw that the revolution was going to win, and then he switched sides and said, oh, yeah, I'm totally for the revolution, right? Classic Obama. But look, there was good reasons for that. I get it. I wouldn't have done it that way, but that's not a black or white issue. It's not binary. There was some nuance involved there. But I was keeping it real. I said, look, I got to tell you what he actually said. And they had to talk to me about that. And I actually don't even mind that, right? Because that is more stylistic. They're like, okay, you can make those points, but it's the president, be respectful. First say the president of the United States speaking, and then, get into your points. Whatever, right? Okay, but I don't think that's a big deal, okay? I just read the other day in the paper, one of Al Sharpton's television shows was called Keeping It Real.
Really?
That was a title of the show.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
I'm sorry I wasn't respectful enough. My bad. My mistake and my bad. Okay. All right, let's move on before we get ourselves into more trouble.
All right, during a government auction of oil and gas leases back in December of 2008, okay, while Bush was still president, Tim DeChristopher decided to make these false bids on the land. Okay, and the reason why he was doing that is because he wanted to have the highest bid, so the auction would go to him. I mean, he didn't have the money to actually buy the land, but he wanted to prevent, big oil from taking over these parcels near national forests or national parks, I should say.
Right.
Right. So, of course, he was caught. Of course, he's going to get caught. He registered for the bid. He didn't pay the money, right?
Right. Of course.
So he faced a trial, and he also could have been sentenced to 10 years in prison for it. And everyone's thinking there's no way he's going to be sentenced to 10 years in prison. In fact, he probably won't serve any prison time because what he was trying to do is, it's disobedience, civil disobedience, they say, right? But what he was doing was trying to protect the environment, and it's almost like political speech,
Right. Oh, no. Political speech is money, okay? The Supreme Court has decided if you have a lot of money, then you have political speech. If you don't have a lot of money, shut up about it, okay? So let's find out. How much did he get?
2 years in prison.
Look, man, when civil rights leaders during the 1960s did civil disobedience, it was brave. They went to jail. They didn't go to jail for 2 years. I mean, that rocked the country, okay? It changed the country fundamentally. And people were, as passionate as they could have possibly been on both sides, right? They didn't get 2 years. This guy is trying to make a statement. I think Anna's right. Certainly civil disobedience. It could be even considered political speech. He's going to go to jail for 2 years. Now, this country has become grotesque. It's flipped on its head, man, where the powerless get crushed and the powerful get more power and more money. And it goes on and on. This isn't what America's supposed to be about. America is supposed to be equality of opportunity for everybody. Now, the only people who have opportunity are the people who are already rich. So and it's gotten to the point where they're the only ones who are allowed to have political speech because they're the ones with all the money. They're like, oh, hey, Tim DeChristopher, you should have done it the legitimate way of doing political speech. You should have bought millions of dollars in advertising. Oh, you don't have millions of dollars? Arrest them. Because God forbid they'd have to redo that bid, and that might cost a nickel or a dime to somebody.
No, but that's the hilarious part of the story, okay? The government is claiming that his false bids cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars. But why? Why did it cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars? That's complete BS that they're making up, okay? All they have to do is, redo the auction and then give the land to the highest bidder, which I'm not in favor for. I don't think that we should be drilling, especially near these national parks.
If redoing an auction costs you hundreds of thousands of dollars, you should be fired for how incompetent you are. Really? I could put together an auction for how much? A couple $100? All right, let's say a couple $1,000. It's going to cost you hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of dollars to redo that auction. You know what it costs you more? To prosecute this guy.
Absolutely.
That costs more money to the state than redoing the auction. And by the way, forget prosecuting him. Put him in jail for 2 years. You know how much that costs? That costs at least $70,000. And you're going to do that. Why? Because your corporate overlords told you to. They said, bow your head. This guy dared to challenge a corporation, put him in jail. Okay? And that's what we have now. And that's what America's become. And that's what we got to fight back against. And we got to recapture what America really is. Because these guys fundamentally just do not understand it and are perverting it.
One last story before we go to the break. Novels by Kurt Vonnegut have been banned from a Missouri school
thank God.
district.
Yeah, because the kids might actually learn independent thinking. We can't have that. You know, Kurt Vonnegut didn't write a novel saying just do whatever multinational corporations tell you. From now on, those will be the only books allowed. Okay, and you know, there were some issues with. Did Kurt Vonnegut agree with the whole Bible? Now, I know it's a great question. His book should probably be banned. In fact, why don't we go back to the old way, where the only book allowed is the Bible? You know, back in the day, now this is a long time ago, if you printed anything other than the Bible, that was a grave crime. Because the Bible had to have a monopoly on truth. If it didn't, it was going to lose.
Those were the good old days.
Right. You know, and that's what they were concerned about in this case. One of the parents complained that it might not agree with the Bible.
No, but this is how crazy this story is, okay? So the specific school that's banning it is the Republic High School in Missouri. And one of the parents kept complaining about it, saying that it's not appropriate material, it's contrary to what the Bible preaches, we need to get rid of it immediately. Now, okay, fine, I don't agree with him, obviously, but do his kids go to this public school? Hell no, they're homeschooled.
Yeah.
So shut your mouth.
Shut your mouth. Okay. So, by the way, the public school doesn't care. They take the book away anyway.
Unanimous vote, by the way.
Not only can you not teach the book, they've removed it from the library. But are they not merciful? They told the press, it's okay. We're not banning it from the from the entire city. So if your parents find a copy of the book somewhere and give it to you, we'll allow you to read it. Oh, thank you so much. You are so great, our dictator. We really appreciate it. Thank you for your munificence that we are allowed to read Kurt Vonnegut still in that particular city and county. So, look, man, how do you fight back against these guys? I mean, what am I supposed to tell a guy who says, oh, well, it doesn't teach what's in the Bible, so I banned it? Okay, then do we ban the biology books? Yeah, they kind of want to. They want to teach creationism. They don't want to teach evolution. What else do we ban? I don't know. Is math in the Bible? Do we have to ban that?
And this is a trend. It started with Texas and how they want to get rid of civil liberties, civil rights leaders. And if that's acceptable, then why wouldn't other school districts, conservative school districts, do similar things?
Civil rights leaders in history, they want to take out of the history books, and they wanted to put conservative intellectual thinkers in the books instead.
And Confederate leaders, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Well, the Confederates. Oh, right. They lost, but that's inconvenient. Okay. By the way, they also say, on top of all that, Vonnegut had way too many curses in the book. Oh, polluting young minds like that. Tis, tis, tis.
All right, we should take a break.
We should, because I think I'm going to get even angry at the next story if the trend continues. All right, come right back.